Hello, and welcome to a Purpose Driven Marriage podcast. We are Duane and Nadine Stewart, and we love any and all things marriage. You've tuned into the right place if you're looking for actionable, practical tips to help you overcome real life obstacles common to real relationships. We're here to help you strive for a marriage as God has designed it and not as the world has defined it. Because why settle for a good marriage when you can have a great one?
Hello, and welcome to a Purpose Driven Marriage podcast. I am Duane.
And I am Nadine.
Yeah. And today we're going to do a special one because this is our anniversary week. We're celebrating 24 years of marriage, and we are super excited about making another year because it's been a glorious ride for both of us. But as we think about the time that we've been together, there's a lot of lessons that we've learned.
Wait,
Yeah.
were you worried?
No, I wasn't.
You left me back there. I was like,
He's
wait.
like, we still together like that. That what you thinking about? Like we're not fighting
I was
each
like,
other.
what?
It's not a battle.
That we made it another year. There was
Mm-mm.
not one moment that I thought, oh no, here we go. Maybe this year's the year.
We're excited to celebrate 24 years of being married. Every year is a beautiful journey that we get to experience together. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, that's more like it. I'm like, babe, people are gonna start talking. Like,
Yeah.
what's going on? What's going on with them? No, actually, it is. I am so excited for this week. So 24 years of marriage, 30 years together. And as I tell you all the time, I could not have been blessed with a better husband.
Wow.
There's no one else I'd rather be doing this with. And you already know that.
Yes.
Since
I feel the same way, my wifey.
Thank you so much, honey. So we challenged each other for this particular episode. 4 years ago, we both wrote a blog when we were celebrating our 20th wedding anniversary. And we both wrote a blog on the 20 lessons that we learned from 20 years of marriage, right? And we wrote our own list. And this year we were like, gosh, it's a 25-minute podcast.
Right.
We can't
Not doing
possibly
20 each.
No, we can't do 24 lessons, right? So what we decided to do is basically say, if you had to come up with like 2 or 3 things of the most important lessons, right? So imagine going on a trip where you are given a teeny tiny bag and you have to fit like the most important things in that bag.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of like that. That's kind of the challenge that we gave each other. Like, what are the most important lessons that have been probably some of the biggest game changers for us?
And this was hard to do, by the way. It's kind of hard to think about 24 years and what is the 2 most important aspects or lessons that you've learned over that period of time. It's hard. I mean, so we definitely did come up with 2 or 3, but it could have been a whole different set of 2 or 3, to be honest with you, because there's so many good things that we've learned.
Well, yeah. I mean, we make lists all the times of like, here are the top 10 tips for having a healthy, thriving marriage. So how do you narrow it down to just 2 or 3? So, but we better get started if we're going to try to squeeze in a third from each of us, right? All right. So you want to go?
I'll go.
Okay, go ahead.
So as I thought about the things that I thought were super important, the lessons that I've learned, especially you as a wife, and, wives need a leader in their husband. And so what I said was, it's like, no matter what my wife says, she wants me to lead. You know what I mean? My wife is a leader. You guys can probably sense that. But it's very, very easy to take the background and kind of sit on the bench and let her do her thing. But in reality is that she wants to feel cared for and secure. You want to be secure in our marriage.
Absolutely.
And when I lead properly, it frees you up to be the best wife, the best mother that you could ever be, because it frees you up from the responsibility of doing the things that you weren't called to do. Right. And so when we think about it, it's not just about, hey, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to make these decisions and those types of things. It's like, okay, so when we have a direction that we're going to, as a man, I need to be able to communicate those things to you, right? I'm doing the spiritual leading within the house. I'm helping to teach not just our kids, but us as a couple and growing in our relationship with Christ. It's doing a lot of those different things to make sure that our home is, it's a safe and secure place for you to thrive and for our family to do the same thing.
Well, you know what, babe? Like for us specifically, what that does for me is it gives me the confidence that you are receiving your direction
Mhm.
from Christ,
Mhm.
right? Like seeing you lead to me, especially since from what a lot of people don't realize is that early on in our marriage, you didn't want to.
Mhm.
You're like, no, you're doing a perfectly good job, Nadine. You go. I will support you. But that wasn't what we were called to do.
Right.
But seeing you step into your leadership role tells me that you are being obedient
Mm.
even when it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And that provides security for me
Yeah.
because it's not necessarily, I mean, I trust you 100%. But, my trust is in the Lord, right? My trust is in God. And so if he's giving you the direction,
Yeah.
and I know that your heart is one that desires to be obedient,
Mhm.
then I know that we're on the right path,
Yeah. I
right?
agree. I agree. And the crazy thing is that it is humbling, and it's a very difficult thought to hear God say, "Hey, you're the leader of the home. Like, go do it." But nobody's written a blueprint. Nobody's really written a book. When you're younger, nobody actually taught you, "Hey, son, like Dwayne, when you grow up and you have a wife and you have kids, you need to lead in this specific way." And it's really easy for us to just be like, I'm just gonna sit back and do what I need to do in the background, but I'm gonna let her kind of step forward. But in reality is, once I have embraced the fact that this is what I'm supposed to do, to have the confidence to go out and do it. And you as my wife, it is extremely empowering for you to say, you know what? I know that's your role. And I'm going to
Mhm.
make sure that you're good in your role. I'm going to support you, and I'm going to encourage you as well, because that allows me to kind of step out and say, all right, I'm going to go ahead and do it. Even if I make a mistake, it's okay, because my wife understands that this is what I'm supposed to do. If I make a mistake, it's okay. We'll redirect and we'll go in that direction. But I continue to learn and grow and have inner strength from my relationship with Christ, and also freedom with our relationship together, to know that we're doing the right thing.
I love that, honey.
Hmm.
I absolutely love that. And the fact of the matter is, knowing what the Bible says about the roles of husbands and the roles of wives, I am confident that God has already equipped you for
Yeah.
that role. Whether or not you recognized it yourself early on, I'm confident that that was something that he had already equipped you
Mm.
to do.
It's all good. But that's number one.
That's number one.
Hmm.
Okay. So for me,
Hmm.
my number one is actually something I learned later on in life. This didn't even make that list
Mm.
in our
20, the
20
top 20.
lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah, in our 20 years of
Well,
marriage
that'll be
that we wrote.
25 next
Yeah,
year.
that we wrote 4 years ago. But this one is huge for me.
Mm.
So, understanding that our marriage serves a purpose
Hmm.
and knowing that we've been able to create a vision statement for our life together
Hmm.
that lines up with that purpose. Right? And it has given us a common direction that we're both able to work towards.
Hmm.
So I know that that's a lot to capture in one statement. That was
Yeah.
actually really, really hard for me to try to summarize.
Hmm.
But essentially, what it means is the vast majority of couples I work with that come to me because they have a struggling marriage feel like they're living their lives just kind of parallel
Hmm.
to one another. They
Yeah.
don't really know where they're going.
Yeah.
And I've come to the realization that a lot of couples live their lives without direction,
Yeah.
not really knowing where they're going. So about 5 years ago, you and I did a little something. We were driving back from a friend's wedding and we had about 3.5 hours in the car together.
Hmm.
And we started looking at our marriage and we were trying to figure out what, in addition to God's purpose for marriage, right? The institution of marriage,
Yeah.
what was his purpose for us?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of legacy are we supposed to leave with our lives together, right? Because we all leave a legacy, whether we want to or not. And so we kind of took a trip into the future. We fast forwarded and we're like, okay, 50 years from now, you and I are sitting in our rocking chairs
Hmm.
looking out onto our lawn. What do we see?
Hmm.
If we asked ourselves at that point, if we felt like, we did well
Yeah.
in our marriage and in our life together, would we define it as having been successful?
Hmm.
And how would we define success 50 years from now?
Right.
Right? Because our definition of success in the future is not necessarily the same as what our definition of success today
Right.
is. Because
Hmm.
today often about money,
Mm-hmm.
about material, worldly things that we're able to accumulate, where we're able to travel, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
But if we knew we had one day left on earth and we had the opportunity to evaluate our life together,
Mm-hmm.
how would we define success? And so during that conversation, we made a list of the things that will define success
Right.
for us at
Right.
that point. And it
Mm.
involved our children,
Children.
and
Mm-hmm.
their salvation was number one.
Right.
Right. And then we had a number of things. And so what that did for us was it allowed us to create this vision of what we want our marriage to accomplish,
Mm-hmm.
right? Underneath God's already defined purpose for us and
Right.
in alignment with God's defined purpose for us. So when we came back into the present, we were able to measure any decisions that we had to make, any actions that we had, even, how we conduct ourselves with one another, with
Mm-hmm.
our children, with other people. We were able to line that up to
Mm-hmm.
see if we stayed on that trajectory, whether or not we would accomplish those things that we desire in the
Yeah.
future.
I-
And this is, I was going to say, this is a lot to unpack.
Mm-hmm.
And this is probably a really good podcast episode in the future
Yeah,
because
definitely.
being able to create your legacy today, essentially, or having a say in the type of legacy that you leave behind,
Mm-hmm.
and having that be like your vision statement
Mhm.
for your relationship,
Yeah.
so that you guys are in alignment with one another, I think is huge.
I
So
think so too.
yeah, we'll have to break that down in a future podcast. And so, but does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And what I love about that is it gets me thinking about my first one, right? It was as a leader, we have to understand where the direction is, what our mission is. So if you really even think about a company and you're an employee within a company, it's like, okay, when we create an initiative or we have a marketing campaign or whatever it is, we look back and we say we have all these ideas and we say, all right, well, do these ideas match up to our mission statement? Does
Mhm.
it match up to our vision? And if it doesn't, then we're not, and not all these things that we're doing right now has nothing to do with where we really want to go. So let's
Absolutely.
redirect that and make sure that we're going in the right direction with the ideas that we have. So as the husband of the household, that helps me. That helped me a ton because it got me to start thinking about, okay, if this is our goal, if this is our vision, this is our mission, this is what we are trying to accomplish, are the things that we're doing today helping us to take steps towards accomplishing those goals? If they're not, then we have to redirect.
Absolutely.
And that was awesome.
So what's your next one?
My next one is about serving, and it's about having a servant's attitude. I think I didn't realize how the level of selflessness that's required to be a husband or to be in a relationship. You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And really it comes in the form of serving. And what I mean is like, I have to be thinking about you in the way that you would want me to be thinking about you. And it's not like begrudgingly, you know
I
what I
was gonna
mean?
say, wow, babe, I have to.
Yeah.
You
Well, that's it.
get to.
That's what I'm trying to get to, right? Because naturally, I'm not a server, but that's been my desire to be a servant, to be not only a servant, but to be intentionally and excitedly. People talk about, we talk about giving. God loves a cheerful giver. I want to be a cheerful servant.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And so what I'm thinking about is not begrudgingly but really intentionally and lovingly.
Mm.
So as I think about you and I think about, some of the things that please you, some of the things that make you happy, some of the things that make you comfortable. I'm like, all right, so how can I be thinking about my wife in a way consistently to anticipate in some ways, to think about some of the things that you might want, you know what I mean? And the things that make you happy and things like that would cause you to feel like, wow, you know what? That was awesome. My husband loves me. You know what I mean? And so I think about those things and I just want to put a smile on your face. And so when I think about the servant side of it, if I'm thinking about you and then you're thinking about my needs, then what more of a perfect relationship could that be? You know what I mean?
It's funny because the last one that I said was a fairly recent one. We just really stumbled on that 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, this lesson that you're talking about was one that we learned, oh gosh, I think our first daughter, who's now 22,
Mm-hmm.
was in her car seat, was in an infant carrier when we attended a class by our pastor
Yeah.
at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he taught us. I mean, it was like a 2-day
Yep.
course,
Yep.
but
Mm-hmm.
the one thing that we remembered and really stuck with us
Mm-hmm.
is how important it was to try to outserve each other,
Yeah.
right? To put the needs of the other person
Mm-hmm.
ahead of our own.
Mm-hmm.
And that concept was one that I think we ran with. It was the only one we remembered.
Right.
And so we just kind of went with it.
Yeah.
And so that is a timeless
Mm-hmm.
lesson, I would
Mm-hmm.
say,
Mm-hmm.
because we learned that from like day one.
Yeah.
And I love that, honey.
But in application and practice, you know what I
Yes.
mean, that sometimes takes time. And so
It does. But you know what? That also speaks to your heart and the type of leader that you are,
mm-hmm.
right? Because I would say that you've always been more of a servant leader
Yeah.
than the leader that's like, charge, we're doing
Mm-hmm.
this and it's my way or the highway.
Yeah.
That's not how you are. You lead by serving. So I really appreciate that about you. So here's my next one. So this one I talk about so much, and I pound into the minds or the heads of anyone that is willing to sit and listen to me talk about this. But it's all about the importance of filling my mind
Mm-hmm.
with thoughts of things that I admire,
Yeah.
respect,
Mhm.
appreciate, and love about
That's
you.
always a great one.
Yeah, no matter the day,
Mhm.
no matter the occasion. And this is so important to me that in my coaching practice, it is the first week's homework, but it is a homework assignment that has no ending.
Right.
I tell them that it is something that they must do from this point on for the rest of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because your mind is not going to sit empty, right? You're going to think things about your spouse. And our natural tendency is to focus on the negative. I mean, we just do that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like we're thinking about oh my gosh, I can't believe he left his underwear on the floor again, or I can't believe he loaded the dishwasher, or he the wrong way, or he didn't load the dishwasher, or I can't believe this, I can't believe that. And it's just filling our minds with negative things. And that's so unhealthy, because what happens is we become so fixated on that we
Can't see the positive.
that we can't see the positive.
Mm.
And you know what I always say, what you look for is what you will
That's
find.
right. Yep.
Right. And so when your mind is fixated on the negative, that's all you're going to see.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens when you do that is it poisons the relationship.
Right.
Right. Because the negativity overrides the positivity.
You know what helps with that is when that happens to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a work situation where I felt like, man, I've been doing all these cool things for this customer, and then every single time they call me, it's about a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wait a minute, did you see all the stuff that I did for you?
Yeah.
And then so it gets me thinking, okay, gosh, that didn't feel great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what happens if my wife feels that way about me? Because all I'm talking about is, or complaining about things that she didn't do right, instead of complimenting her about things that she's been just awesome at, right? I mean, there has to be a lot of that going on.
Yeah. And the thing is, there's no one that controls our mind but ourselves. This is a private space that no one else has access to unless we give them access to
Yeah.
it. And so what are we going to fill our minds with? I remember when I used to have a commute.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the office is down the street, so it's not really much of a commute.
Close.
But back when I had a commute, I would fill a lot of my drive time
Mm-hmm.
just thinking about you.
Yeah.
The last thing that you said that made me laugh, how you looked in a pair of jeans that I really, really liked.
Just got some new pair.
Right. And so,
Just for
I
you.
would just fill my mind with
Mhm.
anything that's positive about you that would put a smile on my face.
Mm-hmm.
Because then, what happens when I walk in the door and I see you?
Yeah.
Right? Am I
You're
going to walk?
smiling.
Yeah, exactly. I'm smiling
Mhm.
because I had just been thinking about you.
Yeah.
Right? It's hard to
Mhm.
be mad at you when I'm thinking about all the great things.
Yeah.
And so I actually get that from Philippians 4:8,
Mhm.
where it says, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things.
Amen.
So your spouse doesn't have to be a perfect person that has a million great qualities all the time, right?
Mhm.
We all have flaws.
You married him for a reason, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And so sometimes I have couples that claim there's nothing good
Yeah.
that they can think of about their spouse.
No.
Yeah, that's not possible at
Mhm.
all. But I'm like, okay, I'll go with it. Sure.
Mhm.
And I have them go backwards in memory
Mhm.
until they can find one thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, whatever that one thing is,
Yeah.
right? You like their
Meditate
feet.
on that. Yeah.
Yeah, you like their feet. Meditate on
Toenails.
that. Yeah, their toenails. They've got the prettiest toenails you've ever seen. So
Yeah.
just think on that. Because when you get your mind practicing and getting accustomed to seeing the good things, that's what you begin looking for.
Yeah.
And then you'll get to add on some other good stuff.
Yeah.
So anyways,
I
do
love
you
that.
have a third, honey?
I have a third one. I mean, there's a lot, right?
Because if
But
not, I've got a third.
I know you do. I'll make this one quick.
Okay.
So my third one is you know how when they talk about the guy's mind or husband's mind compared to the wife, right? Husband's mind is, if you think about a cockpit, is one button, right? Or this one button on a little dashboard. And the wife's mind works like a cockpit. If you look at the picture, and there's all these
Of
different
an airplane?
of an airplane, yeah. And so there's all these different controls, and it's just super, super complicated. If I switch this, something else goes wrong, whatever. And I think over the 24 years that we've been together, I thought I would really start to understand how to work the cockpit. You know what I mean? And know what all the buttons mean, and it wouldn't be so confusing. And because I've always wanted to be a pilot, you know that, right? But you know what I've learned?
What?
After 24 years, I still don't understand.
But that's why you have to be the best student of me.
That's right. That's right. But
It keeps things exciting, babe.
So that's exactly what I'm getting at is, as soon as you feel like, okay, I think I got it. I think I really understand my wife now. And it's like, man, maybe I don't. So you start to continue to be a student. Like you're continuing to learn, and like, okay, well, maybe I need to ask some more questions. Maybe I need to do all these different things that helps me to dig a little bit deeper than where I've been in the past. And so for me, it's just, all right, well, my brain doesn't work the same as Nadine. I know that. You know what I mean? And that's okay. But it causes me to continue to challenge myself, not get complacent, and continue to grow and seek to understand like how you work. You know what I mean? And the goal is just to understand you in a deeper, more passionate and thoughtful way.
Aw, thank you, honey. You're going to love my last one.
All right.
I kept this one a secret from you. But so my last one of the most important lessons that I would pack with me in the suitcase of life, if I could only bring 3 things. Never stop pursuing each other physically, emotionally, and in every way, really. Just never stop pursuing
I like
each
that
other.
one. We can just stop right there.
No, we don't need to stop right there. No, I honestly, babe, like I want to be that 90-year-old couple sitting in that on that front porch, but we're sitting because we had just gotten done like knocking boots inside the house,
At
you know,
90?
at 90, whatever.
Everything's still working.
Yeah, everything's still working. Like I want us to be that couple.
Yeah.
Because I don't ever want our relationship to grow stale or to just, grow stagnant. The intentionality of everything that we do, I want that to always be present. And that's so key, like being intentional, because there's no such thing as a relationship that stands still.
No doubt.
Right? No such thing. If you are doing nothing to maintain a relationship or to grow a relationship, then your relationship is falling away from one
So
another.
basically what you're saying, if you're not growing, you are losing ground.
You are. You are. You're going backwards. You're pulling away from one another. And so you have to intentionally be moving towards each other.
Yeah.
And I think physical intimacy is just as important as being connected emotionally.
Yeah.
Right? And just as important as being connected in every other way.
Because as you think about it, as you get older, I mean, I think the physical nature of your marriage will probably be a little less, right?
Yeah, it'll change.
It'll definitely change, right? So intimacy will look different when you're 80 or 90 years old. You still have fun with each other, but I think your brain still works, your mouth still works, and your ears still work, right?
Yes.
So it's really about spending time. It's about continuing to love on each other, to continue to love on each other in a way that's intimate, but more from the standpoint of just conversation and physical, just being around each other. And the cool thing is when you talked about the older couple and stuff like that, I had the pleasure of being at hospitals a lot, right? Because that's
not as a patient, as his job.
That's what I was going to say. Part of my job, but you see a lot of older couples, You know what I mean? And nothing gives me more joy than when I see an older gentleman, we'll call him, in the 70s or 80s, and his wife just kind of walking into the hospital holding hands, and he might be helping her walk or find a spot to sit down or whatever. And I'm like, man, look at the love and care that couple has for each other. And I think when you talked about like it would be great for us to be that way, I'm like, you know what, it would be cool. You know what I mean? But it's hard to envision us being that old because we still got a ways to go.
We have a long ways to go. And while we're still in our 40s, I was gonna not mention our age, but when we talk about our 22-year-old daughter, I think people can do the math and figure it out. But while we're still at the age that we are, I want to be physically intimate as often as we can and really enjoy what we can still enjoy.
Yeah.
Because I think that helps in connecting us, right? In addition to the emotional intimacy and everything else, of course. And so, but pursuing each other, that pursuit of one another, I think is what's important. I want to get up in the morning and still do my hair and put on an outfit that you like to see. I want to fix myself
Show them
up.
legs off.
Exactly. I want to still be going to the gym and exercising. I want to do those things that I know you've always found attractive, right, in me. And so, because that's my way of pursuing you.
Yeah.
When you walk by, I'm still going to grab your butt, still going to squeeze it, and I won't be able to bend over without you being
behind you.
being behind me. I'm like, where'd you come from? I didn't even know you were home. How did you end up there?
That's kind of how it is.
Exactly.
It's the radar.
Exactly. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed our list of our top lessons that we have learned that has made our relationship what it is, the thriving, loving marriage that we have, really centered around God and his purpose for us. And we hope that this has helped you and is putting you on your way to also having a purpose-driven marriage.